Y'all are the troopers. After last night, and then even that you're here on Thursday morning, right? So thanks for showing up. We appreciate it. Yeah, I retired from Georgia Pacific last November after 12 years of Director of Innovation there. If you don't know Georgia Pacific, the old joke is that we're the train company. Everybody thinks we're a train company, but no, we make a lot of toilet paper and paper towels and Dixie cups and Dixie plates and number one maker of plywood in the country. Nobody really knew that. But so thank you for showing up. We've got a few things to talk about. And I want to talk really about special purpose intelligence. And were you guys here last year? Did anybody see your type? Few guys. Some of this you'll see from last year. There's a lot of new stuff, and I wanted to talk about that. The reason why we started this 4.5 years ago at Georgia Pacific was just like most every other company, we were faced with a tremendous amount of turnover. A lot of new people coming in, sometimes between 30 to 40% per year, depending on the facility. And learning and development was tough because most of our learning and development was tacit knowledge passed down from the experts that were there. And so when you start losing that knowledge, then now your knowledge of your organization becomes scattered. It's not like it used to be. And so we struggle because of that. So we went looking for a place to help us find a way to capture knowledge and put this knowledge into a computer system that would help us train new employees as they came along. Not just data, but data and knowledge. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Everybody's familiar or pretty much familiar with this if you're in manufacturing or if you're in industry. But even if you're not, even if you're just in retail, a lot of these levels are going to mean something to you. This is the Purdue Enterprise Reference Architecture model that we all have to live with if you're in manufacturing and industry. And the thing is, each one of these levels has people in the levels, right? I've drawn 3 here, but there's many more than 3 in each of these levels. Probably, in our case, there were thousands in each of these levels. And so when you had to make a decision, if there was an issue in one of the levels, each person has certain things that they have to go find out. What data do I need to help me make this decision? And so when they make the decision themselves, they have to go then talk to the other people that are inside the layers that are responsible to help them make a decision. So now we have this community of people that have different opinions and different thoughts and different data that they're looking at coming together to try to make a decision. Well, they make a decision. Then they have to go talk to the people that work between the layers. Is this familiar to you guys, right? And so this takes what? This takes time. Typically, to make a decision, everybody has to make it a consensus. It takes time, and then we start seeing some value of the decision, right? Well, so I'm from Georgia, so I can say this. This was bass-ackwards. But this is how we had to operate, right? So we found out, and this is what we're going to talk about from here on out, how we use what is now called an agent to help us make better, more informed decisions faster. And so what we found out was when we use an agent, this is the decision time. And the time between the green and the purple lines are recaptured value faster. So what we're doing is we're making decisions more informed and we're making those decisions faster. And here's how we're going to do that. We started introducing agents into layers, right? So now here's a big question. What is the agent? And we're going to talk about that in a second. But what happens here, and I'm going to just walk down here for a second. Drive the camera guys crazy. Sorry about that. When we introduce agents, there's a couple of reasons why we introduce it to start with. Number one, because you don't want everybody freaking out. Oh, you're replacing me with AI, you're replacing the whole thing. No, that's just not happening. We're having trouble finding good people, right? And so what if when we have these new people come in, we give them a tool that can help them understand what their jobs are and it tracks their performance as they go through their job, and it helps them make decisions faster. That's what an agent is. These agents also communicate with each other. So when something happens, they communicate with each other. What should we do? What's the best way to solve this problem? And the human then validates, is this the best way? So that 35-year-old Purdue reference enterprise architecture model, we see collapsing into this. And there's a couple of different ways people can draw this. But look at this. Instead of all those different layers, we decouple the agents and functions from the infrastructure. So now we have the layer of infrastructure. That then reports to this agency layer. And then all of these agencies, where's the pointer? There. All of these are agents. And so when we think about an agent, what's the difference between agent and agency? Think about real estate or marketing. You have a real estate agency. You have agents that work inside that agency. And those agents report to the agency. So keep that in mind. Now, these agents communicate with each other inside the layers, right? Each one of these layers. They then report to the agency. This is now where our people interact with the technology. Down here, you're going to have some information coming from systems. You'll have from your ERPs, from MESs, also from people. All of this flows up to the agency layer, agent layer, that goes into the agency. So each one of these layers now has an agency that is looking at all of the different things that are going on in that agent, in that layer. Is that making sense? It's a different way to think about it. You guys are probably already way ahead of me on this, but this is where we see this going. This slide is 4.5 years old. 4.5, you're shaking your head. You've probably seen it for 4.5 years because I've been showing the damn thing for 4.5 years. It's now called a personalized agent. 4.5 years ago, I called it a digital companion. But then people started using the word digital companion for other things, and so I had to change the name of it. But what this is a way for those agents and agencies to interact with your people. So, what does this agent do? This agent has data flowing in. This data also has knowledge. The knowledge of how, wherever this person is working, should work. Who are the best people in this area, in this little domain of my company? And we get them to teach it. And that's what we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes. So this agent now knows my certificates, my qualifications, and it gives me advancement guidance. It tracks my learning and development, personalizes my learning and development path so that when it comes time for upskilling and reskilling, this is what's driving it. I don't always now have access to all those subject matter experts that used to be working inside the layers. It understands my talent, my capacity. So one of the things when a new employee comes in, what do we do? We put them with, you follow along with James. James will show you how to do this. Well, now James may have learned from somebody else that had been here for a while, but James has only been here for 6 months himself, right? So my capacity is going to be really low when I start. How long has it been since you started a new job? So anybody in the last year? Anybody in the last? Okay, a few hands. When you get there, you go, what am I supposed to do here? Right? So you try to hide until you figure it out. This helps you right away know your capacity is going to be really low until you start knowing what's going on. Safety. One of the things that it taught us was, everybody talks about mitigating risks, right? It's important if you're in manufacturing or industry. It's really not about the risks. It's where is this employee, this worker, vulnerable to those risks. And this is so this thing tracks along with our employees. Now we talk about agents and how we combine agents with knowledge and data to form all of these things that we're talking about. One of the people that's on our team is named Dr. Arthur Corden. He's one of the top AI people in the whole country. And if you don't know Dr. Corden, he's one of the 5 people that are on our technical team. He spent 20 years as head of data and analytics at Dow. But you can look him up, smart guy. He taught us that to qualify as a true agent, you need to have the ability to learn, the ability to predict, reason, and make a decision. Okay? A lot of things that you'll hear is like, okay, well, we can give you some insights. That's great. But what do I do? What is that new employee supposed to do with these insights? I'm brand new. Here's an insight. Now you need to go in yourself and look at this dashboard. And when this reaches 12, and then that says 58 over there, and then this one down here says 17, then you need to correlate all this crap in your head, and then you make a decision. Well, I'm brand new. I don't know how to do that. This should do it for me. This does all the heavy legwork and gives me, here's some options, Ron. Well, here's this problem that's going on. Here's what I suggest how we solve it, and here's why, right? The here's why is the biggest deal. We don't have that now. We also partnered with, I don't know if any of you guys went by their booth. They had a booth here this year for the first time, Parable AI. We partnered with them because they were one of the true causal AI companies. And here's why they are. Causal AI is a combination of knowledge and data, all coming together to make a decision. Here's how this works really quick. Not going to get real technical in there. But this principal causal model here, this is your rules and science. This is theory. Think about this as a college graduate. When we taught it, the first use case we taught it was supply chain. And we taught it supply chain by giving it college courseware. And white papers from our favorite consultants. So after about 3 days, it comes off like a college graduate. It knows a lot of theory, the theory. What it didn't know is how we actually did our jobs. That's that rational causal model. And so the very first use case that we did, we had a really big problem, and I'll show you the results here in a minute, of order management. We had a new ERP system, cost $1 bazillion. Anybody have that going? Oh, yeah, there's some hands. Thank you very much. And our touchless order numbers were horrendous. People having to, orders getting kicked out. They have to solve it. What's going on? Single digits on touchless orders. 150 people had that job to push orders through our ERP. We took the top 10 subject matter experts and said, teach this like a new employee. What do you do every day? How do you do that? What data do you look at? Why do you look at that data? What is this telling you? What really makes you make the decision? What's the hardest thing that you've ever had to solve? How did you solve it? Now, if I just ask one person this, I'll probably get some good answers, right? But what else am I getting? Anybody? Bias. Thank you. Bias. So that's why we picked multiple people, 10. We took the top 10. So now it had mentors. And when it has a problem, it can look at, say, how I solved it, how you solved it, how you solved it, how she solved it. What's the best way to solve this problem? This is your knowledge part, the theory, and actually how our best people do it. And it continues to learn with every transaction. You add that to the data. You expose the data through the structural causal model. That gives us automated reasoning. It understands the problem. It gives us a solution. It looks at the data, and it tests the data with itself, kind of like a scientist does with a scientific method, and then comes out with automated reasoning. We also use language models to talk to it. We don't use ChatGPT to give us the answers. It just communicates with it. It changes code back to the English language so we know what that is. Looks like this in real life. In this case, this was the order management. Order comes in to this brain. It looks at knowledge. What's wrong with this? If there's nothing wrong with it, it just sends it straight to the ERP. But what if it's something that it hasn't seen before? It uses these models. What am I supposed to, who is this customer? I know this customer. I know our relationships and their best practices, what they expect. It understands where it's working and what it's supposed to do. It will say, okay, to solve this problem, here's a couple of different ways. And they're hypotheses. Then it starts using data to do counterfactual hypothesis creation, right? So it's looking at, like a scientist, the scientific method. It's testing the hypotheses to see which one holds best truth to the KPIs that we give it. You guys follow me? Don't go to sleep yet, I promise. Hang on. This, I know this is kind of heavy. When it comes in, the knowledge will say, to solve this problem, go look at this specific data. You don't need giant stacks. Go look at this specific data. The system will come back. It may start with 50 hypotheses. It'll come back with the top 3 and say, you know what? These top 3, I'm going to start interjecting alternative possibilities to get to my KPIs. Well, what if I change this variable? What if we do this? What if we do that? And it will come back and say, here's the problem. If I can meet my KPIs, we've told it to just be autonomous, do it yourself. If it can't, it says, here's the problem, here's what I suggest we do, and here's why. So now, as a new employee, what am I getting? I'm getting really a reason. It's teaching me how to validate the answers that it comes up with. So I told you this, the touchless commerce orders were lower than desired, single digits. On average, if you guys are familiar with ERPs, the orders were getting kicked out 6 times, meaning you push it through, you fix a problem, it gets kicked out again if there's another problem. Push it through again, it gets kicked out, on average, 6 times. Humans had to go touch that 6 times. It took days to figure out how to get it to go through. And of the solutions that that team was coming up with, to their credit, they didn't know any of the total cost of the solutions. Their job was just go make Costco happy, go make Walmart happy, go make James Superette chain in Macon, Georgia happy, right? And that's what they did. Our first use case, we ran this as a digital twin at one of the largest distribution centers for 2 months. The touchless orders went up 10x autonomously. If it did get a block that it couldn't resolve, the blocks were less than 1, not 6. And the number of days to process the orders became minutes, actually seconds, 15 seconds on average. And if they did need to know, here's the solution and here's why, it told you the reasons why, and it told you how much it's going to cost you to make this decision, right? We did procurement, same way. Parable made this to where you pick it up and you move it to this area over here. You change out the knowledge, you teach it, like you would teach a new employee, and you expose the data to it. And what we got, all of this was our inputs. And if you think about this, you guys look at all that. I'm not going to go through each one of these because we're running out of time. Peter's going to kick me. All of this was the inputs. It's even down to tracking transportation. Is it going to get there on time? Filtered through your KPIs to give us these outcomes. This was a eureka moment because the first thing for order management, we figured out this works. This was important. This actually works. You can teach a machine knowledge and give it data and it can make a decision. Now what we've done is we created this agent. The finance team can use it because we taught it how to make every one of our products, every single SKU. It learned what raw materials went into it. How much did those raw materials cost? It had to learn how to make paper on a paper machine from the operators. It had to learn demand planning and production planning. Then it learned procurement. So now these teams have an agent to use. The inventory management team had an agent to use. The procurement team has an agent to use. And the research and development team had this agent to use if they wanted to make a new and improved product, because it knew how to make all of our products instead of them starting from scratch on a test machine. This has unlimited simulators in it. It knows all of what we do. You change the KPIs to whatever you need to, and you run simulators in it. Simulators run on historical data. You find one that you like, you promote that to a digital twin. So now you're looking at it side by side with what's actually going on. What if Walmart says, I need to change my order from 5 days to when we send you an order, then you have it on our dock to 4. What does that do to our supply chain? You simulate that, right? See how powerful this is. On that, the results were, depending on the facility itself, increase in production value from 4 to 10%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you got 130 facilities, it was a lot for us. Last thing. I'm okay, Peter?
No,
you want me to hurry up?
Perfect. No, the minute's in the perfect run.
What's that? Yeah, hurry up?
2 more minutes. Please.
Okay.
It's great.
So, I told you that you guys may have had the same issues too. Training. So, we partnered with, which is the reason I love coming to ARC, is meeting other people that have the same problems that we had. And how do we partner to solve these problems? This was one of the largest private school systems in the country. Private school systems. They have a really good online way of teaching. They wanted to get more into AI. They have 120 other school systems feeding off of their curriculum. They wanted to get into AI. And so we said, you know what, we'll help you. We will help you do that. Because why would I do that? Well, these people were professional educators, and they know how to educate. They know what it takes to make people think to solve a problem. This would be an advantage for us if we could do this. So we did. They now have one of the slickest tutors in the whole country. They focus on K through 12. The tutors go out to grades 4 through 12. And so you think, well, 4th through 12, what does that do for my employees? Teaching is teaching is teaching. Education is education. They understand that much better than sometimes we do as corporate people. Here's what the results. 15% grade improvement for students experiencing difficulty by using the tutor. 25% improvement going from B's to A's. That's incredible. I mean, this is something that's 94% of the students said that using Trek AI when they studied for their finals helped them improve their grade. And you know why? When you ask ChatGPT a question, what does it do? Come on, guys. What does it do? Gives you the answer. Does that giving you the answer, if you're a student, what is this math problem? What should I do? How does this sentence should be structured? Whatever that problem is, if it gives you the answer, does it teach you? No. What this does is it makes you think on how you should solve the problem. It's a different way to do tutor, an electronic tutor. So this is now part of a solution, right? It's part of a solution. Agents can be anything from autonomous to just something that's automated that sends data to an agency. Right? There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Everything doesn't have to be causal. Causal just helps you make important decisions faster and tells you why. And every time you look around as an organization, there's reasons to do that, make decisions faster everywhere we look, right? Okay, Thursday morning. Okay, so that's all we got. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all coming.